As of this recording, this is currently in my top 10 of 2024, which means at least it should be in my top 25 at the end of the year, even with all the Oscar bait that comes out. So let's talk about it. What's up? I'm John Stark from ActionMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and this is Ezra. Yeah, I really like this film. I have a digital copy of it, and it does have audio description. I got it out of the Apple Store. I'm glad I made that choice. I clicked buy. I just had a really good vibe. Sometimes I click rent, uh, and I make the right choice. But I clicked buy on this. It's Bleecker Street, and Bleecker Street is not known for consistently passing through audio description. Like, I've seen titles pass through to streaming services without audio description from Bleecker Street. Like, I had to watch Freud's Last Session with no audio description. So I don't know that they're always going to have it. So it's like, if I see it, I have to grab it. So I grabbed Ezra. And since I'm a blind film critic and I have a lot of blind followers, I'll introduce myself. I've got a purple baseball cap on backwards, black sunglasses, and I'm wearing a Loki shirt. Just has the word Loki on it. It's nothing fancy. Literally, it's got something on the back. The business is in the back. But yeah, so Ezra is, it's directed by Tony Goldwyn. Stars Bobby Cannavale, Rose Byrne, Robert DeNiro, uh, Whoopi Goldberg. Tony Goldwyn is actually in the film he's directing. Rainn Wilson is in this. And the kid playing Ezra, Nicholas something, he's in, it's an and introducing. And I didn't memorize his name, I'm sorry. I love this film. I just did. I was like enraptured with it from the beginning. Bobby Cannavale's performance in here is incredible. And I feel like he's an actor who we always just kind of like, whatever. Bobby Cannavale. And it's like, I've seen him do other things I know where I've really loved his work. And I feel like he just has been really like underrepresented. And I would love for him to start getting recognized as being one of the best talents we have, because I think he puts a lot into his work and he's really engaging for me. He's great at playing people who are kind of broken, but you know, good guys with good hearts who are fighting. He's great at being angry. You know, I mean, like so many there, he has a lot of characteristics here. He feels like somebody who would be Robert De Niro's son, too. So, like, that's excellent casting. Um, and this film is about a comedian played by Bobby Cannavale. Max was his name. And he used to be a writer for like one of the late night shows, but then he had a problem and he dropped out. Now he's trying to do stand up on his own. He was married to Rose Byrne for a while. They are separated. He now lives with his dad, Robert De Niro. And Bobby and Rose have a son who is autistic. And Bobby uses it a lot. I'm just gonna keep saying Bobby because I don't remember the names of any of the other characters in the film except Ezra. Uh, so he uses it a lot in his stand-up for, you know, to tell stories and to talk about it. And because a lot of comedians, they talk about their life experiences, and that's his life experience. His life experience is growing up with an autistic son, and what that was like, and what it's like to have people, you know, constantly telling you these things about your kid, like he's never gonna do this, never, you know, or he's brilliant. He makes one comment where he's like, you know, these doctors told me that my son was brilliant, and he's like, well, my son growls and doesn't even communicate. It took him for a while to talk, and then when he started talking, he wouldn't stop talking. So it's kind of a reminder that autism is a spectrum, and it's like a bunch of different experiences for different people, and this is just this one experience. And I don't think that they went too far in either direction with Ezra. I've seen autism represented on screen, and I don't think that Ezra is necessarily trying to make it seem like autistic people are such a burden on society. But it also, while it does pull at the heartstrings, it's not like a Hallmark movie, you know. Actually, I don't even think Hallmark movies are like Hallmark. I mean, like '90s Hallmark movies, like Tuesdays with Maury. You remember when like they used to like make them on like CBS and it was like Hallmark movie of the week. Those kind of movies. I don't know what a Hallmark movie nowadays is just like. Does it even mean anything anymore? Um, I felt like this had the right balance because it was as much about Bobby discovering himself as it was doing anything for Ezra. Like it was about finding his balance and being there for his son. And as the film opens up, you learn about his dynamic with his father and how he grew up and what happened to his mother. And you kind of understand a lot of the reasons why Bobby does what he does in this film and why he'll never give up, why he'll never walk away, is due in large part to the fact that he was left and he had somebody who walked away from him when he was a kid. He knows what that feels like, and so he's decided to be an advocate and a fighter for his kid every single day. And is he always the best advocate and the best fighter? No, I don't know that we always are, but man, this guy's got his heart in the right place. He um, absolutely feels like the dad that would take 10 bullets. You know what I'm saying? Like he'd just stand there for his kid and just take wallop after wallop after wallop, um, and fight. And he puts himself on the line time and time again in situations that are detrimental to him as a person, uh, because he thinks it'll help Ezra. And um, I found that incredibly interesting. The film is kind of about this road trip that they go on. There's a little bit of sort of like a catalyst thing, like Ezra. Uh, his, he's in a regular school. Yeah, just like a normal public school, I guess you want to say. I don't want to say like normal in the way that like normal kids go there, and he's not normal. I mean, like just like pick your school down the road. That he goes to that. Uh, whatever that is to you. I don't know. They don't go out of their way to be like, well, this is a magnet school, or well, this is a private school, and we pay tuition here. Like none of that stuff. It's just that. It's just it's. Don't read into it, okay? I'm not trying to say he's fine. Uh, he but he goes to school with other kids, and they think he's basically that the administration has just had enough. He's too disruptive. They put him in other rooms with people, and of course Bobby Cannavale brings up the fact that he gets bullied. The other day he came home with a cut and bruised lip, and he's like, well, where's that kid's parents? He's like, well, we talked to that kid's parents, and it's like, I do kind of feel like the bullies always get away with shit, like way more than like weirdos. You know what I'm saying? Like the weirdos are always like, well, we can't have this kid here because they're weird. I mean that in a loving way, because like I think about it's with kids who are deemed to be too weird, like school are like, this makes me uncomfortable. I don't know what to do with this. But a bully, you'll just keep pulling him in the office and be like, if you don't stop hitting people, your life is just going to be, you're taking the wrong turn, young man. We're going to send you home for the day so you can think about it. It's like that kid probably wants to go home for the day. What you need to do is be like, if you don't stop punching people, we're going to lock you in a room for summer school. You're never going to leave that room. Just going to have books, boring books on science and math. You got nothing to do except read about science and math. So stop hitting people. in case you can't tell, I was bullied in high school, so I have feelings about bullies and that kind of thing. But yeah, I kind of I heard that part of the conversation. I was like, I've been there before. Like I literally remember being bullied and then getting the same punishment, like also getting detention. And I'm like, for what? What am I getting detention for? And it's like, well, they said that you did this. And I'm like, I didn't do, well, of course they did because they want to make it seem like it was a fight. But do they look like they were in a fight? Like, you know, um, so yeah, like school administration, I have very low self-esteem for some of that stuff. So Ezra then is sent off to a doctor who, well, no, he goes home and he has an incident at home, which is basically because of Tony Goldwyn, who plays, uh, I don't know, his stepdad or boyfriend to Rose Byrne's boyfriend. I don't know. It's really unclear. It's how permanent he is in this relationship. I think he's just a boyfriend. Uh, he doesn't like him. Ezra does not like this character, and he hears him mention that he making some jokes about killing Bobby Cannavale. He runs out. He ends up not paying attention because there's also a dog that jumps at him and tries to bite him. So he ends up basically running in the street, which then sends him to the hospital, and everybody's like, "Are you suicidal? We have to get him in for a psych eval." Bobby Cannavale thinks all this is insane. He's like, "What are we doing here?" He just, he wouldn't run into a street. He knows his kid too well, and Ezra's just not good at communicating. So it takes him a while before Bobby ever finds out the reason why he ran into the street, because Ezra doesn't know to communicate those kinds of things. And then finally, it comes up and it's like, thank God we finally talked about it. Because you see in the film, Ezra's clearly reacting to something. He's not just some random autistic kid that just like runs out the front door into the street. It's without context. There's reasons for him he just doesn't process, and he was going to run down to his dad's house and tell him that this guy wanted to kill him. Anyway, so they're recommending basically these psychotropic drugs on him, and it's very schemy because this doctor recommends this drug that he has this display for this drug all over his office. He's like, I'm recommending happy pills. And then Bobby looks around and he just sees boxes of happy pills all around the room. I don't remember the name of it. It's some fake ass drug. And he's like, how much do they pay you to push these on kids? And the dude said something really douchey to him too. I was like, man, he deserves, punch that dude in the face. It was like, that was a comment from a grown ass man to Bobby Cannavale. That was just like, oh man, yeah, he gets it. He should get it. And I feel like in a court of law, if you had an audio recording, people would be like, yeah, that was an appropriate reaction. That's a punch in the face comment. Whatever it was I can't remember what it was, but it pissed me off. I was like, you're a fucking doctor, man. Sit your ass down. So yeah, I hated that character, and you're supposed to, because from Bobby's perspective, these people keep trying to do these things that he doesn't think are the best interest for his son. So he takes Ezra on a road trip he's not supposed to. He ends up out after the fight. He gets a restraining order from Ezra, which is weird because he didn't punch Ezra. But he's not supposed to see Ezra for 3 months, and he reveals later on a really sad story about how he got out of jail, what he had to agree to, and the guilt that he feels for doing it. So they go on a road trip, and he takes his dad's car. I think it's his dad's car, and him and Ezra go on a road trip. And of course, the mom freaks out, and she's, we spend quite a bit of time, actually. You would think that at this point, this would completely diminish the amount of screen time Robert De Niro and Rose Byrne have. It does not. They end up going on the road to try to follow them and find them. And while they're on the road, Bobby gets a call that this thing that he did, that basically they want him to be on Kimmel. So even though he's headed up to see this friend of his, he then has to kind of basically head down to Kimmel. Everything's complicated because eventually Byrne makes a terrible choice by letting the police know, and they're like, "Oh my God, 4 days! You know, this is why Amber Alerts were created." And it's like this cannot be why Amber. I mean, this specific situation does not, like, because you can see what's happening with Bobby and Ezra, and you're like, he's not going to do anything to this kid. This kid's fine. He just wants to see if he can give his kid an experience, if he can get through to his son in a way that everybody else keeps saying is impossible. And you see these little moments from Ezra, where Ezra makes these moments of growth, and not all of them are great moments. He does have some moments that are not moments of growth, but he has these moments of growth that are really kind of beautiful, and they focus on a lot of things, and things that Bobby talks about, where he's like, because his son doesn't like to be touched or hugged, and he's like, I just want to be able to hug my son. And Bobby sees this one scene where Ezra gets a hug from someone and accepts it and then hugs the person back. And even the dialogue right after that is Ezra is like, you don't know how big that was for me. Like, that was a lot of work for me. But he wanted that in that moment, because it was sort of, there's stuff that, like, Ezra talks about too in this, about like his hopes and dreams, and he's like, I'm gonna die a virgin. And I was like, no, there'll be other people who like dinosaurs and like stuff that you like. And he's like, live playing D&D, yeah, yeah. So yeah, there'll be somebody out there who likes the same things that you do. And so that scene matched up really well with Ezra's own wants, and it just kind of like intersected with something that Bobby had mentioned earlier in the film. It's just a fucking beautiful scene, beautiful movie. I think the acting here is terrific. I got so mad at like the doctor, and then later on the cops. There's this one cop too, like, who like tries to help Ezra at a point in the film, and Ezra, and apparently knows nothing about autistic kids at all, and just kind of goes in as if Ezra is just like any old person, and Ezra's like freaking out, and his mom is there, and his mom like tries to like step in and help, and she's like, "Ma'am, you need to step back." From her own son. She's like, "No, that's my son. Fuck off." I don't know, there's just so many great little moments in this film. I really love it. I don't know why people don't like this that much. I love movies like this. I thought it was well done. You can get too schmaltzy, you can get a little too much, and it can feel like, okay, I'm being way overly manipulated. Or you can be engaging and manipulating. And I feel like this was more engaging. I felt like the characters were shaping. I really felt like there was a strong bond here between Bobby Cannavale and Ezra. And there's a great scene between Bobby and Bobby DeNiro. Yeah, it's where DeNiro he finally just kind of like tells him something that Bobby always kind of just needed to hear. And I don't know, man, this is a really good film. The audio description is okay, but necessary, because there are a lot of things here that are very physical, that have to do with how Ezra reacts to things. And he reacts to things happening to him. So if you don't know that he's just been touched, or that somebody's looking at him a certain way, there's a lot of things here. There are a lot of moments here that are based just on eye contact, for example. So I appreciate the audio description that I got, but I felt like it was very, very minimal, to the point where there is no credit at the end of this. I wasn't crazy about the audio description. And then I didn't get to find out who it was that either did the narration or what company did it. And that always kind of just kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's like, is this Bleecker Street saying we don't want to credit audio description? Or is this a company that doesn't want to jump on board and say, this is our audio, we take ownership of this? It always just kind of makes me go, I don't know. I'd have to watch more Bleecker Street movies to see. Now I'm like interested. I'm like, what's next time I watch a Bleecker Street movie with audio description? I'll see whether or not they get credited, because then it's like, is it the company? Is it Bleecker Street? I don't know. But there was nothing at the end of this film, and I just very disappointing. But it's not my favorite audio description track of the year. The narrator is just not engaging to me at all. The narrator just feels like, I don't know, quasi AI. I hate saying this because I know that some of these people are real, and I hate saying that your voice sounds adjacent to TTS audio description, but it does. Some of you guys just really have to put more into it. Like, it gets a little too drony. It's a way too flat and monotone, and then it becomes like, why? I don't know what the difference is between having this voice as a narrator or having a TTS voice as a narrator, because I've heard better TTS voices that are used now that we're starting to use like these AI generated voices that sound more realistic. There's some actually pretty decent AI voices that are more engaging than this voice would be. The problem is that it can't react, it can't have inflection, it can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it can't highlight any moments. There's no vocal performance, but I don't think there was a vocal performance here. So I hate to say it, but I don't know that this audio description track, because of this narrator, would necessarily be any any better than having a really well done um, TTS audio description track. And that's, but I can't call it out. I don't know. I have no idea who this is. I might know the narrator, but I just thought it was a really flat performance for this film. It just didn't do anything for me, for a film that is very emotional. I mean, talk about something that sounded like it had nothing to it. Like, it just could not be bothered. Um, yeah, the writing was fine. I could have used maybe a little bit more. It felt like there were times where it's like, you probably could do something here. You know, where there's like silence and you're like, is there nothing to describe? I felt like there were a few of those moments. Like, where you like, normally you feel like somebody's gonna jump in and be like, Max opens the door. Uh, Max scratches his face. You know, like, where it's like you can just fill it in with something to just kind of help us like further the plot. I'm always sort of like, I love the most audio description because I know, as a former sighted person, I know how much we're missing, and I know how much blind people are missing, and I'd love to be able to fill in as much of that as possible. So anytime we have a gap that isn't filled, I'm just like, you could have put something there. But at the same time, I'm really grateful for what was there, because it really helped shape these performances and shape these characters, and it made Ezra one of my favorite films of the year. So I'm giving Ezra an A. It is very much in my top 10. It's not my number one. My number one is still, as of this recording, Inside Out 2. But it might be, it's like my number 2 or 3 right now for this year. I'm really high on Ezra. And I may even revisit it. I revisit always a couple films around Oscar time, not always ones that are being considered for Oscars, but just a few films. And I could see myself revisiting Ezra. So I fully recommend this. I loved it, and I can't see a world in which I don't put Bobby Cannavale in my top 10 best actor performances of the year. I can't see there being 10 other performances that come out this year that would make me remove him from my list. I loved Bobby so much in this. I thought the rest of the cast did a really good job, but I think Bobby Cannavale is just a standout, and I just thought he was tremendous. And the kid, absolutely a really great performance from him. I don't know his level of autism. I'd be shocked if he wasn't on the spectrum at some level. I don't think that they found that. You don't go and introducing and then and then pick a non-autistic child to debut an autistic role. I just feel like you just don't do that. I'm trusting this kid is on the spectrum somehow, somewhere, somehow. So Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I know this is long, but I really wanted to talk about Ezra. I really love this film, and I fully recommend it. So I'll see you guys on the other side.